You've probably heard myself and other engineers mention saturation from time to time. But what exactly is it and why is it so important? Well, today I'm going to show you what saturation actually looks like so that you can have a better understanding of why it is so important to your mixes. And more importantly, why not emulating this is setting your mixes apart from music that you listen to, and not in a good way. Now, before I show this visually, which should be a huge eye-opener for you, I want to show you what this sounds like. In front of you is a recent punk rock mix I did where I did my best and tried my hardest to drive this thing into some saturation plugins to get the sound of one of my favorite mixing engineers that uses saturation heavily. And this is so I can get that gritty sound, especially on the guitars, the top end of the snare, and even the vocals. The band and myself worked very hard to get this mix sounding like an analog mix and not a digital mix. And we did this throughout the whole song on all the tracks, but what I want to show you is how hard we drove the master bus. So let's just look at the virtual mix bus here and look how far into the red we are driving this. And of course, we know what this sounds like if we overdrive this and really distort this thing. So we are coming very close and getting more crunchy, obviously not distorting it that much, but we are going into the red, and we have other plugins on the mix bus in which we are doing this as well. And we can just look at the tape machine and see how hard we're driving that. So everything is coming dangerously close to distorting here, but it sounds pleasing to the ear, and that's what I'm going to show you. There are actually 4 plugins adding to this, so what I'm going to do is just bypass them and bounce this track, and we're going to compare before we actually look into what this is doing. In front of us, we have the final mix on the top and the mix with the 4 saturation plugins turned off on the master bus. What you will notice, and actually what you will hear, is that the final mix appears and sounds a lot louder than the unsaturated mix when no volume moves have been done. And we're going to get into that and show you why. Real quick, I'll play the final mix, and occasionally I'll solo the mix with those plugins turned off. So what is going on here? Why does the final mix sound so much more full than the unsaturated mix? And if you notice, I've actually upped the volume of the unsaturated mix. So these mixes are both peaking at -4.5, but yet the final mix sounds more full and actually louder. To show you why this is happening, I have just made a new track and I've put Logic's tone generator on the track, which will just create a tone at 1K, and it sounds like this. And I will mute the stereo out so we're not hearing that annoying sound. Now, so we can analyze what's going on here, I'm just gonna put an instance of Pro Q3 in here. We're not gonna be EQing anything, but we can see that the analyzer is showing us, yes, there's a tone being generated at 1K. Now I'm actually going to bring Pro Q3 down in the chain because we're going to put another plugin in between the tone generator and Pro Q3 to see what it's doing. Let's pull up the virtual tape machine And immediately we see something going on here on our EQ analyzer. We see the tone at 1K, but we see all these additional little frequencies popping up here. Now, these are called harmonics, and these are added when saturation is induced. And as we drive this tape machine more and more, we can see that these harmonics rise in volume. In short, these frequencies are what you are hearing when you start adding saturation to your tracks, and this is what is pleasing to our ear. We actually like this tone and we like this sound, and we hear it on a lot of our favorite records and albums. So the reason why the saturated mix sounds and appears louder than the unsaturated mix is not because I raised the volume on anything. It's because there's actually more frequency information. So we are adding frequencies, adding gain, and just adding fullness to the sound. And what's great is you don't need these exact plugins to emulate this. Any analog emulation plugin is going to have a similar effect. What I've done here is just added virtual mix rack with the virtual mix bus here. And if I enable this, you will see harmonics appear. And what's great is Slate actually has a bunch of these. So they all look a little different. When you add this to your track, you're going to see that they don't, produce the same harmonics. These are all modeled differently and achieve different results. Another plugin that I was using on this mix at the very end is a hard clipper, right? We think digital clipping is a bad thing, but it actually, can produce some pleasing sounds. So this is just a simple clipper. So if we clip the sound off, we can see that this plugin too induces these harmonics, which again can be very pleasing to the ear. Now guys, if you want more help with your mixes and want to achieve just a better sound overall, I do have a free guide for you to download if you want. It's my Ultimate Home Studio Mix Guide, which has your go-to starting points for compression and EQ for all your tracks. And if you want to know more about some of the plugins I use, I do have a great video on some specialty plugins that I use in every mix that I just really couldn't live without. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure and go grab a copy of my Home Studio Mix Guide with your go-to EQ and compression settings for all your tracks. And also go ahead and register for my online mix training that I hold a couple times a week so that you can learn how to turn your home recorded tracks into a professional product.